Good afternoon, a good Wednesday afternoon to one and all. Welcome to this afternoon's episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption, Incompetence. Today is Wednesday, the 3rd day of September. Yes, we're in the month of September 2025. And here we are this wonderful afternoon to bring you some credible, valuable information. I know many of us are anxious to hear what's going on in this dear land of Guyana in relation to the elections and other things, and we're going to tell you what we know. We're going to keep you posted. We're going to keep you informed. We're going to bring you credible, valuable, indispensable information. So welcome. Another great day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. Let's give praise and thanks to be in the land of the living. It is a privilege to be in the land of the living, and indeed a real privilege. We should never ever take that for granted. Mike, we were here on Sunday afternoon. We had the last program just the day before election. I batted alone. Some people said I broke records. I don't know. I'm looking. Somebody said I broke records and so on. A lot of people have met me and have said, well done. Yes. My colleague, CC, is still having some technical difficulties with his computer and otherwise. But I think we're going to try something to make sure that he can participate in the program this afternoon. So yeah, share the live. Again, people are going to be caught because, normally Wednesday we are at 11. But because of circumstances, we are here this afternoon. I really had to make a special effort to be here this afternoon. And I do that because I appreciate that you come here, you want to hear what is going on, and therefore I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we find the time. We make the sacrifice, and I'm making a big sacrifice to be here this afternoon. And so I ask you to share the live, and give us a thumbs up. But we just passed 700 on the live, and we have 21 thumbs up. So not good enough. Give up. Share the live. Share. Especially now, as we said, this is an unusual time for us to be here on a Wednesday afternoon. Right? We don't normally come Wednesday afternoons. Wednesdays at 11 o'clock in the morning. But I couldn't make it for 11 this morning. And I sent out the notice yesterday. Again, if you did not receive the notice, it's because perhaps you have not subscribed to the channel on YouTube and you're not following the page on Facebook. My page, and well, not necessarily my page, because I'm very selective. Because, a lot of people try to infiltrate. They send in friend requests with us at a bogus picture and us at it. So I'm extremely careful with who I accept. But when you go to YouTube and you go to the page there, Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption, Incompetence, there's no restriction. Anybody can follow the page. And from monitoring the page, I know many of you, some of the regulars, have not subscribed to the page. You have not given the thumbs, hit the notification button. So therefore, I suspect that is why many of you do not get the notification when the program is scheduled. Yes, having said that, we are going to do the usual thing, a truncated roll call. As I said, now we're dealing with those who came in first. And then to save some time, some people have recommended that, and we listen to the recommendation. Maybe now and again, we will go through your entire list of those who are in the schoolyard. But for now, we're going to deal with those who came in early, and then we're going to make some announcements, and we're going to go into the program today. We have lots to tell you about what's going on with the election and other issues and so on. We have a lot to tell you. So sit back this good Wednesday afternoon and be informed, be educated. Now, when we opened the school gate at 2 o'clock, as we had said in the thing, first man in, Ulrich. Well, Ulrich was here then. He's listed as the first person. Coming in at the same time too was Carl, then Jakey, you had Stian, Marlon, Aubrey, shortly after Kerry, Paulette, Danny, Esla, Brian, Anthony from Petersall in the East Bank of Demerara, Pinky, Orin, Clyde is here, Benji from Myconi, Ridley the Angel is with us. Who else came in early? Emerson, Aubrey, Machu, Courtney, Paulette, then it is Vashti, Pastor Smith was here early, Mary, Nada Smith, Francis Keith from Melanie, very, very early. Those people came in early, and the others came in a while after. Not late, but a while after. And then when we opened the school door, the first person in, let me see who's the first person in. First person in when we opened the school door, not surprising, is our boy Edward. Edward Charles was here. Simone came after him. Carlton Popo. Joan from New Amsterdam. And then we had Angela, Charles, Marsha, and the list goes on and on and on. Now we make the announcements. And then we, again, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate, but in the interest of time, we're going to make sure that we give you want to hear the information, I know. Many of you want to hear your name called, like, where you come early, no problem. But you want more than that to hear the information, and we're going to hustle, and we're going to, coming back to the Sunday's program, 2 hours and 45 minutes of instructions you had. And what was pleasing to see that persons remained in the classroom for that period. So I guess you found it interesting. People remained in the classroom for that duration. I want to thank you for giving your attention, and I hope you weren't disappointed. In terms of depth, we make these sad announcements for us. We did tell you that the former member, Dayal Prasad, known as Stanley Prasad, his number was 15074. He died on the 26th of August. They say he was a member of course 183. And then he will be a viewing on September the 4th from 6 to 8 p.m. And then service on September the 5th from 8 to 11 at Bergen Funeral Home, that is on Rockaway, 11430 Rockaway Boulevard, Queens, New York. And then that will follow by a cremation. And that is the only death announcement that I want to make at this time. And condolences to the relatives and friends and whoever associated, members of that course as well, course 183. Condolences to them on the passing of a member. We also saw too that we aren't taking propaganda on this thing today. I see somebody coming, hold on. We aren't taking propaganda. Wait, let me understand this thing clearly before I deal with this thing. GCOM has not announced the, as far as I'm aware, GCOM has not announced the result for the election, and therefore, if anybody come here with what up to now would be false information, I'm not accepting that. Let's wait. So let me take out this comment to this marmite, and then warn you what the name is: Andrea, Mana Roman Andrea Ramnath. Let's wait and GCOM to announce the results. Well, let me deal with it. And you're warned, Ramnath, you're warned. Do not come on this page and post information that are not true. Because you're going to set me up, You're not going to set me up. So please do not come here and do that. I have deleted the comments that you have made for that reason. Not that we don't want you to say what you got to say, but don't come with no, until GCOM has made the announcement, we ain't going into that. I am not accepting that on this platform. So you're warned. The next time you post anything, you're going to be blocked. So don't come with that nonsense here. This is not a platform for that, right? Yeah, so we talk about the condolences to the relatives of those persons. Now, we don't have any birthdays announced today. We did announce some recently, but we want to announce an advanced birthday greeting to Neil Semple, former traffic chief, retired senior superintendent. Neil Semple is observing, I think tomorrow is his natal day. What was Semple? 9860, I think, was his number, regulation number. He was in traffic with me when I was traffic chief. I think he was in A division. Then sometime after that, he became traffic officer. We call him traffic chief. So yeah, Neil, congratulations to Neil. And he is going to be observing a birthday shortly. Let me, in terms of what other announcement I have to make. I got another announcement here. But let me bring in Mr. Conway. Let me see if he made it. Let me bring in here Mr. Conway. CC, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Happy to be in the land of the living to do God's work. I'm having some difficulty, but I'm trying a way out. You know, I'll get it sorted out before long. Um, Happy birthday in advance to Neil. To, to Neil. And a very interesting thing, Neil. He joined the police force, and from training school, he went straight to traffic, and he retired in traffic. He didn't work any other place than traffic. It might have been a record somewhere along the line. From training school, traffic, and until he retired. I want to shout out to a couple of people. A couple of days ago at Orange Walk, I met Alfred Granger and his beautiful wife Nicola. He said he was an ex-police. He served for 4 days and then he left. His father was a police. His uncle was police. He come from a police family, and I want to thank him for the little contribution that he gave to us. And this morning I went to the GPO, and there I met Winston Collymore, a pensioner, from what he called out to me and said that he always listens to the program. If he doesn't get it live, he gets it later in the evening. So, Winston, I want to shout out to you and thanks for the words of encouragement. Paul, he said to tell you a special hello. I must keep up with the program. And Paul, I want to thank you for soloing uh, last Sunday. You did an excellent job. Myself and wife reviewed, and she gave you a A plus. And she said you were ripping in a ripping form. And I tell her it's not in ripping form. Form is temporary, class is permanent. It's because of your class. That's why you survive and did an excellent job for nearly 3 hours.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. Thank you to all those people. Many persons have said that to me that I did well. And I thank them. I thank them. And we will continue to do well. You know, I want this one, somebody come the name Rama, some name he come with the crappy. So he come back here and he did not eat, he or she, I'm not sure if it was a male or a female, did not eat the warning. So out you go. Class done with you. Let me understand. I tell you all on this platform here, we pay for this platform. This is not something free. And many of the students contribute, and we thank them for that. So we're not going to allow these people to come here, these trolls and so on, to come and spew nonsense, especially if you come, by now you have to know, we support justice, we support competence, we are anti-corruption. And therefore, if you are supporting corruption and if you're supporting injustice, this is not the play. This is not the place for you. You are going to be banned. I have no apology. This platform is not a democracy. Let me understand this thing clearly. We paying. Again, I got to thank people. Up to this morning, Amar met me. He gave me a little smart piece. Right? Up to this morning. He said, you're doing an excellent job. And we will continue to do that. And remember, this program has been going on since 2022, sometime then, So this is not something that was geared towards elections. This is something that has been there, and it will continue long after elections. We'll continue to highlight incompetence. We'll continue to talk about corruption. And I continue to say that the PPP administration is the most corrupt government the Guyanese has ever known, without any doubt. And I dare them to challenge that. Most corrupt, we're going to talk about that as we go on. Most corrupt administration, perhaps in this whole hemisphere. The evidence is there. As we say, as former senior police officers, we deal with evidence. The evidence is there. And if they want to ask for the evidence, we're going to show you the evidence. And we're going to talk some more about that and the elections which were held on Monday. We're going to talk about it. We are not politicians. We are not political analysts. But we have experience. We've been wrong long. And we can therefore, we have we can comment on certain things without going into the nitty-gritties. We can comment, and we will do so this afternoon. I want to take this opportunity to extend his greetings. This month, September month, right now at the start is the Amerindian Heritage Month. I don't know if they still call it that. But the month of September used to be recognized as the Amerindian Heritage Month. But I guess that now is overshadowed, at least in the early days, by the elections and all of that. So to my Amerindian brothers and sisters, or as we would say, the indigenous brothers and sisters. Hope you have a wonderful month. Hope you have a wonderful month. Then Friday, we learned yesterday that Friday coming will be a public holiday in Guyana in respect of Yumanabi. A friend, my late friend, Ransford Goodluck, my shooting buddy and real good friend, used to say Yuman Nabi. When I say, what is the holiday? He used to say, it's Yuman Nabi holiday. Yuman Nabi holiday is Friday. And well, we're going to talk about whether we're going to be able to come. You will know about that. Now, I want you to pay attention to an issue. Students, pay attention. About 2 weeks ago, definitely last week, we were advising you of this build-up military assets, American military assets in the Caribbean Sea. I think it's the southern part of the sea around Venezuela. They said they were there to embargo to prevent drug smuggling. I know it is said that drug, the people say, so, you know, the Guyanese, the man who gave the video in Guyana, Junior Bash, he said that Guyanese, he called name, right? They are buying gold from Venezuelan generals. They come to Boa Vista in Brazil, and they buy the gold and smuggle it into Guyana. And no doubt, if you are buying gold from Venezuelan military generals who are in cahoots with Maduro, who is sanctioned by the United States, who has a $50 million bounty on his head. So if you're doing business with them, then quite naturally you are supporting Maduro. Well, yesterday, President Trump said he's not having none of that. They saw some vessel suspected to be smuggling drugs, and the Americans bomb it. They claim 11 persons who were on board died. I know I have been reading the thing, and people telling you, well, why not intercept because and charge them and put them before thing and so on. They ain't got you all of them. Some missile, I think they must blow it out of the water. They claim 11 persons died in that thing. So I say this before I bring in CC, because if there's a military presence, American military presence, lots of assets around Venezuela to prevent drugs from smuggling, with our porous borders and all the drugs that have been passing through Guyana, we can very well expect that is going to be intensified. That is drug smuggling through the route, like water. You know, water find the lowest place to go. So you block them off there. No doubt they're going to come through Guyana. I hope that the authorities there, especially those in Region 1, because I know Region 1 is the epicenter of drug smuggling in Guyana. The evidence is there. Epicenter of drug smuggling. I hope they are conscious of that, because if the U.S. tighten the noose around Venezuela, they ain't gonna stop the drug smuggling. You know, it might stop by that medium, by that means. They're gonna stop by that means, but they're gonna find other places. And by now we know that they get people in Guyana who are aligned in cahoots with the drug smugglers. A senior police officer, don't forget that. Recently, a senior police officer, M. Nacha, was sanctioned by the United States government, saying that he's a drug trafficker. That is basically what they say, he's a drug trafficker. So therefore, let's watch and see. And I thought I'd bring this to your attention to monitor what is going on out there. To monitor that build up, because people have said, the analysts have said, that given the assets that are there, perhaps it's not only for the interception or to prevent drugs from going. They might have other intentions. So we, Guyanese, need to make sure. Of course, you know about the Venezuela threat to Guyana, repeated threat to Guyana, saying claiming Essequibo is theirs, and they're going to come and take it by force and so on. I believe, as you might personally believe, that military presence there might have something to do with that as well. That's my personal belief. Might have something to do with the threat that Venezuela has issued repeatedly, the saber rattling, and the fact that the U.S. has said that they have a $50 million bounty on the President Maduro of Venezuela for drug trafficking and all that. And then Maduro did say that they're mobilizing the military, the militias, to counter any aggression by the US. But that is if the US want to go there and deal with them, they're gonna take there's a couple of a little thing. You mobilizing militia and all that thing, you know, they're gonna end up like our chief of defense staff, what your name Khan. You know, you get emotionally disturbed because somebody say lie, somebody tell lie on your can't. So you just bust past us, and they're gonna run and hide and so on. So you can't tell me to mobilize it. You mobilize it for what? That's just saber rattling and making big noise. So again, I am cautioning us Guyanese to monitor that thing and to be aware of what is going on. The Trinidadian Prime Minister made a statement about it. She said they don't allow the American to use Trinidad territory in this thing, but if the Venezuelans should ever attack Guyana, then the bases and the territory of Trinidad will be available to the Americans. Those statements are made. As she said, that is not she came a CARICOM. That's a she. That is our statement from Trinidad, and she about CARICOM. I don't know if the CARICOM leaders have made any statement in respect to that, and the presence of the U.S. Military assets in the Caribbean Sea. And let me look for Ralph Gonzalez, a man who seems to be very close to the government of Venezuela, including the president of Venezuela. Right? So let me see what's going to happen. Have they made a statement? I have not heard any statement collectively except or individually. The only statement that I have been able to read and to think is the statement made by the Trinidadian Prime Minister, Kamala Persad-Bissessar. Nobody else. So let me hear what's going to happen. Let's hear. CC, let me bring you in. This build-up, your views on it with the drug, the blowing out, the blew a vessel out of the waters yesterday, man. Your take?
Well, we know it's not only for drugs. I'm certain about that. And then I saw the image. Some people might say it's artificial insemination. I don't know, but the military presence is there. And as you mentioned, Paul, the Region 1 epicenter for cocaine smuggling, in Guyana. So we know that, hey, they're going to gravitate to Guyana, and we got to be on the alert. And we know that Guyana has 270 miles of coastal waters to patrol. And also we know that we get the Wenemu, the Cayuni, the Mazroni, the Potaro. We talk about the Winey Point. We talk about the Baramo, Imbatiro, and other rivers that Venezuela would have easy access because the Cayuni, the Wenemu flows into the Cayuni, and you have the tributary Cayuni, Mazroni, Potaro, and they've all gone into the Essequibo River. So there's a whole lot of things that we gotta be aware of. But we know that the drug smuggling is going to take place, and more so, we are aware there are rumors that the police are still deeply involved in smuggling in the cocaine trade.
Yeah. Let me say this. Let me invite you students to monitor the comments. I just had to block one and I just delete a comment, which I think is inappropriate. The man come and talk, but if the PP come back, what the AMLA will continue to do, and James Wan, he very explicit. So no, don't come here with them thing, man. No, you can do better. And of course, it's not a regular. Somebody come for talk, but if the PP come back, the AMLA going to continue Daram Lalin and James Bond might join for James Bond. Well, me know it's James Bond, but James Bond he said James Bond might be Daram Lalin as well. That is my way of putting it over. So no, delete the comment. Because I know, that try to set you up, They come with us at a comment, and then they're going to report you as being vulgar, and they record you as all other thing, right? So let me understand. Let's understand. I want you all help me to monitor, because I can only look here sometimes when Mr. Conway is on. I don't want to be distracted and so on. So if you see anything inappropriate, just draw my attention to it, and I will deal with it. This is our platform. I say our. The students who are, especially the regulars, and Mr. Conway and I, and the people who give me a little something, every now and again, they give me a little thing for keep the program going. And that we are going to be grateful for. Let me move on. I'm going to election later. Share the live. Share the live. We just passed 1800. Share the live. Now, I saw a letter in yesterday's paper, right? And I thought it important that we should deal with it. This is a letter captioned, "The dishonesty in the police officer caused me to be tried and convicted in absentia at the Diamond Magistrate Court 2. This letter is written by Dominic Gaskin. He was a former minister in the coalition government. And then he come out, talk all sort of crap. I mean, Sharon said he been there, he did nothing. Nothing. He has nothing to show for the time he was there in the coalition government. And he came and he talked a lot of stuff. But he wrote a letter which I'll read to you. He said, "Please permit me to share with your readers a recent experience of mine. A few months ago, while navigating the Diamond Grove Junction on my way home from work, I was stopped and issued a traffic ticket for the offense of, quote, failing to stop when required by a police in uniform, end of quote. In my view, the officer with whom I interacted was way more aggressive than he needed to be, since I did actually stop as directed, but then proceeded as originally instructed by another officer who was actually directing the traffic at the time. In any event, not wanting to plead guilty to an offense which I didn't, in my view, commit, I opted to appear in court and plead not guilty. The ticket provides that option by requiring you to appear in court at a particular date and time unless you pay the fine within 7 days. So I didn't pay the fine, and instead of waited for the 3 months to have my day in court, which was set for 9 a.m. on August the 29th, 2025. I arrived at the Diamond Magistrate Court around at 8:40 a.m. I waited downstairs until about 9:15 and then proceeded upstairs to Court 2, which was not yet open. I sat just outside the door on a bench and waited along with about 8 other persons. A number of police officers were standing around, presumably waiting to address those cases which concerned them. Nothing happened until around 10:30, when a police officer came out and started calling out names of persons, the vast majority of whom were not present. This repeated itself several times, and the few who were present entered the court, one at a time, to have their matters heard by the magistrate. Shortly after 11 a.m., the officer who was calling out the names asked me whether I was there to pay a ticket. I told him that I was there to plead not guilty to the offense indicated on the ticket, which I then showed him. 10 minutes later, he asked me for the ticket and entered the court with it. About 5 minutes after this, I was invited into the court, where I was informed by the magistrate that my matter had already been called and dealt with, and given my failure to attend court, I had been found guilty of the charge against me. Upon inquiry, I learned that this had taken place while I was waiting just outside our courtroom, hanging on to every syllable of every name called out by the police officer, who was never more than 6 feet away from me and was literally bellowing out the names so that even persons who might be waiting in the courtyard could hear. When asked, the officer told the court that he had indeed called out my name. This is simply not true. I maintain this officer is a shameless liar and a disgrace to the Ghana police force. The magistrate further explained to me that our guilty verdict could not be undone, and that my only options were to pay the fine, serve time in prison, or hire a lawyer to appeal the ruling. I have since paid the fine. Life is too short. I am fortunate not to have much experience with Guyana's judicial system, but I do recall that the magistrates' court were once open to the public and cases called from inside the court, so that there could never be any dispute as to whether a defendant's case was called up or not. I'm not sure whether restricted entry to the courtroom was introduced due to COVID-19 pandemic, but any system which allows a person to be convicted in absentia while sitting just outside the courtroom, waiting patiently and attentively to be called is, in my view, absurdly unjust. Worse yet, when that system has no way of verifying that the person's name was actually called, it becomes frighteningly vulnerable to abuse. The purpose of this letter is to highlight this vulnerability in the hope that it might be addressed by decision makers within the judiciary. Even McDonald's has an electric screen that displays the order number that have already been called or already been called out for pickup at the counter. Why would we choose a system that relies on the competence and integrity of a single police officer? Now, we got some things to unpack there. Ticket issue, as we have been saying all along. I am pleased to know that they are at least they are trying these cases. But I want to know how come Dominic Gaskin could have been convicted when he was right there in court. They claim that his name was called. He disputed that. Did the magistrate conduct a trial? That is what I want to know. Because let me tell you this, students. You're issued with a ticket, as was pointed out there. You have 7 days within which to pay the ticket. Failing to pay, a date should always, because a date should be on the ticket to say when you should appear if you want to contest. The ticket is really a conditional summons. Condition being, if you want to pay, you go and pay. And then they have to have a system which indicates that the ticket has been paid. If it has not been paid, then you turn up on the date indicated on the ticket to contest. That is what Mr. Gaskin is claiming that he did. He turned up on this day. He sat outside. The man's story is straightforward. He sat outside, he waited. Having the police come, police said, what are you waiting for? He said, well, I get this kid in the thing. Go in, come back. Man, should tell you the case done. Well, let me understand what happened. If you fail to appear, once the name is called, and you fail to appear, the person who issued the ticket to you, known as a complainant, has to go into the witness box, be sworn by in the court, the marshal, or the orderly sworn, and give evidence in relation to that particular thing, what happened. He has to give evidence, and because there is no one there to contest what he is saying, right? Then the magistrate acts and you're convicted and all that. But this here is is a frightening thing, that this man is right there outside the courtroom or outside the court door. Outside the court door, right outside there. And he can be found guilty in absentia, when in fact he wasn't absent. He was right outside the court door, the door he's claiming. This needs to be looked at. And I'm sorry that he said that he paid. He should not have paid. This thing should have been appealed, and let me see the record of the magistrate where this ex-parte trial would have been done. Because a magistrate cannot convict you unless there was a trial. Cannot. No legal authority to so do. So I don't know if in all of this, they say name call and he didn't appear, and the complainant, there's a policeman who would have issued him the ticket, was there. I did say some men were policemen in uniform, were they're wrong, presumably to deal with matters with them. We don't know, but this thing requires an investigation. This thing requires an investigation, because if a citizen, as we say again, can be present, he is there. I have no doubt, based on what Mr. Gaskin is saying, there's no reason for him to lie. He sits there, and then to be convicted in absentia is frightening. It's very, very frightening. Let me bring in Mr. Conway for him to see what he has to say on this matter. CC, what are your views on this thing, letter that I just read from Mr. Gaskin?
Well, I can speak with authority, as a prosecutor, as a court orderly, as a person who gave ex parte evidence in relation to traffic matters, that when a ticket is issued, the offending person has 1 day using BSB, you will be told, look, you have 7 days in which to pay the ticket, and they call it at which magistrate's court. Failing to do that, if you want to contest, you have to attend court on so and so date. So he issued with a ticket, and the date is set for court. And when he appears, if he appears in court, a trial will be held if he says he's not guilty, where the person who issued the ticket has to go to court to give sworn evidence to prove the facts in the matter. And then the magistrate will decide whether the person is guilty or not guilty. So let's say the person decides to contest, as Mr. Gaskin mentioned. He turns up, he turns up, and the case is called, and the orderly will call the name 3 times. If the person doesn't respond, they always say no answer, no answer, no appearance. And there and then the magistrate will say, will let the complainant comes before the court and give the evidence. We call it ex parte trial. So when the name is called 3 times, no answer, no appearance. And I heard a funny story too, where in a case where the orderly called the matter 3 times and no answer, no appearance. And the master said, call louder. And the orderly, louder, louder, louder. And the master said, call again. And the orderly, again, again, again. I don't know if it is true or not, But the whole thing is that somebody, the complainant, has got to go in the witness box and testify, give the evidence to prove the case. You call it ex parte trial. And in relation to matters being tried in court, I know that they used to say that all persons who got matters in court, please come inside. They used to come inside, go in the courtroom itself. But when they had the COVID-19, I think they put some amendment to that. But now it's not COVID-19, that every person who get case should go inside. They call it free public interest, unless the case is being held in camera, or unless they are juvenile matters where they prevent other persons from going in and listen to the matter. But the thing is that I'm surprised in that case there, that I'd be surprised if anybody at all went and gave ex parte trial. If the man say he was there, he got to hear his name called, and it would be interesting to see what is written on the magisterial jacket, what is written in the magisterial jacket, and what is written in the notes of evidence. If the magistrate took any notes, or it sounds very, very strange, and it's unbelievable, because ex parte trial, somebody has got to go in the witness box, testify, and give the evidence, and the magistrate will decide whether guilty or not, and impose a fine or whatsoever is the findings.
Yeah, well said, well said. So again, students, you are policemen and all, you're educated, and Mr. Conway is perfectly correct. Your name got to be called, John Jones, John Jones, John Jones, and then you look around, nobody respond. Then the magistrate is informed, right? No appearance, no answer. Nobody appear, nobody answer. Then you proceed to say that the person is absent. Then you proceed, right? And somebody made an interesting comment here. We talking about development. He says here, he was at the DMV in New York. There's the Department of Motor Vehicle in New York. And did not hear his name. But he got a message on his cell phone to report to a particular window. He got a message on his cell phone to report to a window. And this is just DMV, where you may be renewing a license or something like that. This is a case where a person's liberty is at stake. And they call them thing development. How can that be development when basic things like that? A man is issued with a ticket, good. He decides to contest the ticket, good. He turns up in court on time, excellent. And then he's still convicted for being absent. He's still tried behind his back ex parte when he is present there all the time. So, no. This thing needs to be looked into. This thing needs to be looked into, right? And somebody said, one of the comments here, that I should remind them of the poem by Pastor Nehemiah. It goes, first they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not economist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists. I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews. I did not speak out because I am not a Jew. And then they came for me, right? Then they came for me, and then there was no one left to speak for me. So even though former Minister Dominic Gaskin might be the victim in this case, all of us must speak out against these things to make sure that this type of injustice, I call it, this type of injustice is not allowed to continue. And he talks about the dishonesty, you see, and that is where the police that say, oh, PR, and investigate. You see the headline? And remember, it's not Mr. Gaskin would have given the headline. The paper, this is Starbrook News yesterday. The dishonesty in a police officer caused me to be tried and convicted in absentia of the Diamond Magistrate Court. The dishonesty of a police officer. And for that reason, this thing should be looked into properly. For that reason, the thing should be looked into. Now let me go on to another related in terms of the conduct of the police. My own experience on election day. You know, and I posted it on social media. And then a man, when I related, said, well, this is a non-issue. No, it is not a non-issue. I hope the guy who wrote that is a non-issue listening. Hey, what happened? I went to vote at the Bedford Walkton Community, well, secondary school now, or whatever, in the community high school, whatever it's called, right? I went there to vote. The road outside, you had cars parked on both sides, huh? Because people elect polling officers, people go for vote park. So it was one passageway for vote, traffic going both south and north. I went there, I parked, I went and I voted. When I finished, and let me say this, at that time, 7-something in the morning, was a very smooth process. Very smooth. Process, I went in there. And nobody asked me about cell phone and so on. We're going to talk about that later. Now, when I was leaving the polling place, a schoolmate of mine, a classmate of mine, came to me and he said, look, he has some problem with his sister's proxy. Because his sister, who is an amputee, had given someone a proxy to vote for her. They went through the system of proxy. But the mistake they made is that the proxy was not registered to vote at the same place. And then he learned that in order for you to be a proxy, you have to be on the same list, on the same polling place with the person who you're voting for. And that was not the case. So he asked me what can be done. So I said, well, in which case, because they don't live too far away, you got to bring your sister. Let her come and let her vote. He said, all right. He wanted some assistance from me to do that. And at the same time, he asked me if I can assist his wife, who is visually impaired. I agree. Right? So I went to the place. The sister lives in the upstairs home. She amputee. So she's in a wheelchair. And we hustle and we maneuver. Both of us lift the wheelchair. We brought her down, put it in the vehicle. I put the wheelchair in the back of the car. We drove to where the vehicle they use is an SUV. So it's fairly high up. Now, when we got to the polling place, of course, as I said, cars on both sides. We stopped, and because of the height of the car, she had difficulty in walking her way to get into the wheelchair. So we were I holding the wheelchair, and she coming down. Eventually, in that process, there was a minibus proceeding north, and there is a Republic Drive just in front of the school there, right? Minibus, I know, ordinary minibus. A police sergeant in uniform came out and said, you're blocking the traffic in a very, what I consider aggressive and rude manner. You're blocking the traffic. I was taken back because when I looked, this man saw what was going on. And even before I could have responded to him, people who were nearby shouted, you see what the man helping the people for put the woman in the car, right? And he repeated, you're blocking the traffic. So I invited him then. I said, well, if the traffic is being blocked, you do what you got to do. You do what you have to do. And then later I told them, because when we got her out, and she was in the wheelchair, and her brother was taking her in, right? I then drove up, I had to pass along. So I said, his attitude like that make people just blame the police, You saw what was going on. It's not a case we just parked here. We're trying to assist this woman to come out of the vehicle, to go in the wheelchair, to go and vote. But you said nothing. You did not say anything thereafter. But there's a type of insensitivity. And I wrote about the insensitivity of this police sergeant. And then the man decided to take me on, said, there's a non-issue. Why are you writing about it? No, it is not a non-issue. As the thing said, it is insensitivity. Because one would have thought that the police would have even tried to assist. But no, you want to tell me that we're blocking the traffic. No humanity, I agree. That is what. So I am saying this to when Gaskin talk about the time of dishonesty of a police officer. Of course, he wasn't dishonest, but he was very insensitive. He was very insensitive. He saw this is not something the vehicle has sparked. He must have seen that we get a difficulty again because the vehicle is a SUV and she eye up. She had a difficulty to get down from the seat onto the wheelchair. So we had to actually assist her to get, and that took some time. And that is what this man tell me blocking the traffic. I wish him well, though. I wish him well. Sergeant, I don't know if he's one of the recent sergeant, but he got 3 stripes in the hand, right? There were others in the bus I recognized when I put along. Others in the bus, right? And it wasn't, I got the impression that they were not in favor in the manner he did. They said unto me, but the facial expression that I saw from them, because they actually opened the side of the window for me to see them. And I got the impression from the facial expression that they weren't pleased with how the sergeant attempted, or the words that the sergeant used and so on. That is the story. Let me bring in Mr. Conway. See, insensitive thing. And you know, they talk about community outreach and they go into this. These are the type of things that bring the force into disrepute. The incident at the court, and then now this man, election day, enough people around, oh man, is not somebody come there and just park up and blocking the traffic. You're seeing people assisting a woman out of the vehicle, and you're talking about obstructing traffic. What is your take, my brother?
Well, we use one word, courtesy. No courtesy display. And attitude like that, the behavior like that is what cause a lot of people to lose a lot of confidence in the police. A lot of confidence in the police they lose when they behave in a manner. And that's why I've been saying all along the line, it's time for the establishment of a behavioral science unit in the Ghana Police to deal with behavior at all levels from top to bottom. That the behavior, some of them need to, what we used to say years ago, go through an attitudinal metamorphosis. The behavior, how you treat the person, how you deal with members of the public, it is critical. They will, if you behave in that manner, they will lose public confidence in you. And policemen should be very courteous. A lot of courtesy they must display.
Right, I agree. But the thing, let me be honest with you. When he said what he had to say, the manner in which it was said, I was tempted to respond in like way, but allow me the maturity to prevail, right? Allow that. Now let me say this, Carl. Your apologies are accepted. I told you all your summer post about when the people call Dharam Lal will continue Dharam Lalin and James Bond and so on. He has come out and he has apologized. He said he says here, Mr. Slow, I'm not trying to set you up in any way. And note, you said I'm not a regular on your program. I never miss any of your show. I live in Barbados, and every program you have, I watch on YouTube. Then I come from work a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday program. I just happened to come home early from work today, and I saw you posted since yesterday. Your program will start at 4. I agree that what I wrote was a little too hype, but I did not mean disrespect to you, Mr. Conway. Accepted, Carl. Your apologies are accepted. We're just trying to make sure, because people post these things, and then they monitor us, ERC and all these things monitor. I know they monitor because on one occasion, somebody posted something that was considered racially offensive, and they wrote me. So I know that they monitor. And then I pulled it down. So I would try to go through, and if there's inappropriate comment and so on, I would take it down. There's not censoring. It's making sure that they knock you off because they're going to complain next year, they charge you or other thing. So we do our due diligence. So, Carl, your apology is accepted. Now let me go to share, we're gonna talk now about the election story. We're gonna talk, we had elections on Monday, right? Let's say low voter turnout, only 49%. That's what I'm saying. Well, I am no statistician. But let me say this. If you have a population of 800 and something thousand, and you have a voter list of 700 and something thousand, right? And you have systems to make sure that then Jumbie maybe come out in the numbers that they would normally come out in. I would believe that the percentage will be low. The percentage will be low. I am not surprised to hear that there is low percentage. And then they came out and they complimented the observers and everybody saying you had a smooth polling day. Some people for us had put it down to efficiency of GCOM staff. But it will appear now is not only efficiency, it was the fact that enough people didn't turn out. I see something which says the total number was just 300 and something people turn out to vote of a list of 700 and something thousand. Well, it's a 49%, so we can understand, right? So we could understand. Now, let me say this, and I want them to listen, and I want them to hear me clearly. I ain't holding back here. It would appear the results have not been made official as yet. I should have mentioned before, let me mention it now, that I understand that the Jamaicans have gone to the poll or are going to the poll today, the 3rd of September. There is a bet that Jamaica result can announce before Guyana result. Guyana had a rejection on Monday. 2 days after, the Jamaicans are going to the poll. And people betting that you're going to hear the result of the Jamaican election before you hear the official result of the Guyana election. Something is wrong. And don't tell me the Jamaican system will get force past the post and therefore it's easier to manipulate. We have resources. We have modern technology. And they will tell you, that's what GCOM will say, that given the laws, that they have to wait until all the statements of polls come in from all the far-flung areas. Sometimes it takes days to come before they can tally and before they can make an official announcement. But the all years that mean you want to tell me that with all the modern technology and so on, again now, you can go and change them rules to make sure that you have a more efficient system? Yeah? And yes, the Jamaicans, the millions, they're telling us 300 and something thousand people vote. God is saying 49% of 700 and something, right? 300 and something thousand people vote, and you can't get results. But Jamaica get millions of people voting, and the bet is that by tonight or early tomorrow morning, you're going to hear who win the election. That is what creates all type of uncertainty. That is part of it. It creates all kind of uncertainty. People don't trust GCOM. People don't trust the Guyana Elections Commission. There's evidence that they are biased in favor of the ruling party, in favor of the PPP. Let me understand it. People don't trust them. And this type of delays, because let me tell you this, Monday night, when the results started trickling by Tuesday morning, people were saying that it was clear that you're going to have a minority government, meaning that the PPP seems to will have the most votes, so they get the presidency, but they would not get a majority of seats in parliament. That was Monday night to Tuesday morning. That was the thing that going around. So yesterday now, I'm talking about 35 and 36 seats. One more post today, 45 seats and that sort of thing. That something is wrong. Something is wrong. I am telling you Tuesday morning, PPP people who they know, oh God, minority government. And then something happened. Something happened. And now you're hearing that 36, people saying 37, people saying 45, all sort of thing you're hearing. And let me say, yeah, record, well, they're not record because they can always go back in YouTube. A lot of people voted for the PPP that was to be expected. I read something, I was looking for it, I can't find it now. Where's somebody right to say the reason why they can no longer support the PPP? Somebody wrote that. I can't find it. The reason I spoke about it before. And the person said, in the end, in his summary, that there's only two types of people voting for PPP. Two types. He said, one, you got to be a racist in all, and he gave the background, you know. He said, you're voting for PPP, which is predominantly an Indian party, because you're racist, or you are getting little something. You're voting for get your little contract and so on. And he went on, and I agree with that. Given all that the PPP has done in recent years, all the corruption, look, let me understand this one. Let me understand. The vice president, the man who running the PPP, and people say running the government and the country, Bar Jagdeo, was accused of corruption in the Vice News thing. That thing won a global award for investigative journalism. Is global award for investigative corruption. Recently, Junior Bash allegation, he alleged that the president, Irfan Ali, who seems to be on the verge of re-election, involved in corruption. This is the allegation. These people have not attempted to investigate any of those serious allegations. And you tell me, in all fairness, you could watch people in a straight face and say, vote for them because of what? Somebody said, somebody wrote to let the progress continue. And I asked the question on social media. They kind of stuck them on, you know. I said, what you're referring to, what must continue? Corruption, drug smuggling, road debts, and I highlighted them and then come back, they back off. What must continue? What you refer to as progress, building road alone, when you have all the corruption allegation, ministers of the government are involved. And I say in plural, ministers of the government are alleged to be involved in corruption, right? The U.S. sanctioned the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Home Affairs for corruption, among other things. Are you telling me that you can sit there in all honesty with a straight face and tell me you voting for them because of the work they are doing, and you're not a racist, or you're not one who just decide that, look, I get in a little sweetie, so I can vote for the sweet to continue. I get little crumbs, yes, Sharon, I get little crumbs. You can tell me that. I have no apologies to make to that. I say anyone who support the PPP, the either, as the person said, I'm repeating what the person said in the thing. I'm sorry I ain't get it to quote it directly, right? Gotta be either a racist or that person is getting some benefit. And you know, when you look at it clearly, sometimes it'll be a combination of both. A combination of both. Them is racist and they getting thing. And let me say this, I'm saying it because I have lots of friends who are other ethnic groups. And some of them will tell me something is definitely wrong with this country, Guyana. Something is wrong in Guyana. But let me warn them, you know, we're into a very, before bringing CC, we are approaching a very, I almost put it, I don't know how to put it, but the next couple of months should be very, very interesting. The very next couple of months, attacking it by the remainder of September, October, November, right to the end, very interesting. Because, you know, it was rumored, and I said we don't like to talk about rumor. The man is said, you know, we had this place at the West Coast Bobbies. They had a disco there, and they said the night, ball there, this one. They said they had a regular DJ used to come and play and thing. And this night, the DJ did not turn up. So they called on the owner, someone, he played little music. I said, you got to talk, man. You got to talk, you know, West Coast, but you got to talk. The man go up on the mic, and the man said, hey. Then he tell him, he said, don't listen to rumor, or Rasta smoke ganja upon your veranda. Yay! Yeah, so don't listen to rumor. You don't listen to rumor. But it was said that the U.S. is likely to sanction several persons, including government ministers. That was being circulated. Including government ministers. That was being circulated. If it is so, my crystal ball is telling me that you're likely to get the first indication if the PPP returns to power to see who are the ministers who are going back. Who are the persons who are put into parliament? And let me say this. Yeah, watch out, student. Anybody who is now a minister in this PPP government, and when you look and you see them going back as a minister, watch out. Watch out. Anybody who sees a member of parliament in this current administration, PPP member of parliament, and then going back, watch out. Watch out. Maybe like Gabby, the name on the list. Them name on the list. You know, Gabby from Barbados sang a song some years ago, the list. Right? Who name on the list? We're going to see. We're going to see. But I'm saying, again, with all the corruption, and the thing about it, Jack Dio sits there on Thursday as he will do tomorrow. I think he's going to do tomorrow. You know all who's criminal, all who corrupt, you know all sort of thing. And this person, I was almost saying this man, this person, with all the power he has, all the power, because everybody knows he's the real president, he calling the shots, all the power, cannot order a credible investigation into allegation made against himself. What does that tell you? And I say this, they might jump around and you investigate, but I believe other people, other agencies would have looked into all those things that were said and would have come to a conclusion as to whether it is true or not. Right? I'm going to look at it just so badly. Let me bring in Mr. Conway, man. CC, let me hear you.
You're so correct, you know. Watch out. I'm certain names will be disclosed before long. I think, and they know who. I shot nigga the wink. I think they know who. But then, you know, this government is so corrupt and incompetent. So many major projects either stall or have not or actually written off. We get a gas to show project, several postponement, gone into millions and millions and millions of dollars from the original estimate. So many incompetent police. They injurize the Ghana police force with incompetent people. You know, so many things we can talk about whole day. That is government, but if they go back in power, lots of things gonna happen in the coming months. Plenty things gonna happen. I don't want to disclose, but you know, common sense will tell you sanctions, I'm certain, will be the order of the day.
Yeah, so they can do investigate, but let me see what can happen. Let me see. But let's thank you. Mr. Sunil, who infiltrated the classroom, has been dealt with. My company classrooms will say we are effing crab dogs. That is what they come. You know, then that to show the level of the intelligence, the intellectually lazy set of people. And though in many, in most part, they are the ones who would have supported the PPP. They can't think for themselves. They drink the soup, they drink the mulgatani, and that is how the behavior. But thanks for your vigilance, student. Thanks. Now let me move on to the next matter. You know, we tell you about GCOM preparation thing. We had spoken about this use of cell phone. And we're saying that the thing that they put out and make no sense. Right? And make no sense. Right? Now, we saw on election day on Monday a photograph posted of a vote, of a ballot paper, and they are alleging that that a national cyclist by the name of Alonzo Graves posted a picture of his ballot on social media. Now, the first thing, if the booth was located or was situated or was positioned in a manner that they claim it would have been positioned, how this happened? Let me go back to where I voted. The booth was situated in such a way that while I was able to back all the polling people and so on, right, They can see clearly that I had nothing. They can see clearly. So if that was the way all should have been set up, what happened there? Because in some places, I see big sign about phone in the polling place that I went, not only the polling station that I went to, right? Not only where the place where I voted, they had several multiple stations in the same building. Nobody had asked me for no phone. Nobody asked me, I had my phone. Nobody asked me to turn it off. Nobody asked me to leave it outside. Nobody did that. But there was no need for that based on what I see. What I saw there was no need for it because there's no way I could have used the phone or any other device without, because let me understand, it took me maybe about 15 seconds to vote. I just walk in, I put my X at the top, I put my X at the bottom, and go, done. I come out, put my hand in the ink, put my finger in the ink, come out, put thing about, done, quick time. So for a person to have taken a picture, it ought to have taken a time, an unusually long time, given what goes on. So even if somebody little feeble and so on, can't take them long for Mark 2X. So they had said in the thing that they had issued that if there was such an occurrence, the person can be reported to the police. Right? Like we asked the question, to do what? Reporting them to the police to do what? What law would they have broken? What law? GCOM should tell us. What law a person who takes out a photograph of the ballot, what law would they have broken? And let me say further, this is the policing in me now. Because it's in me, right? The ballot is posted on social media, right? Ballots don't have name. Ballots don't have name. If any offense is created, it can be, the offense can be posting it on social media, given what GCOM has said. The offense ought to have been taking out the picture. Now, how do you convict a person for taking out the picture on the mere fact that it was posted on the person's page? What evidence you have that is that person took out the picture? What evidence you have for that? So you see a polling, you see a ballot paper finished all marked on the social media under the name of someone who owns that page. Right? Again, how you know is not somebody just share it. How do you know that? All of these things. So that's what we have said before. They come up with all kind of things, and they don't look at how this thing is operationalized. And one would have thought, given the experience with the joint services voting at least a month, at least a week before, when members of the joint services were alleged to have taken out the ballot, picture of the ballot, and posted it on social media, one would have thought they would have made some arrangement to prevent that from continuing, but apparently not. Because I remember even with the joint services ballot, one of the coalition scrutinies had pointed out that the polling booths were incorrectly situated. And I think they came out and they corrected that. But obviously, then look to see that again on Monday. Again, it goes to show that GCOM, as I said, just come and they talk, and there's no coherence to make sure that these things are properly implemented. Again, they said, right? And more evidence, as they've said, that they put rules and policies without thinking these things through. Because we had asked a question before. You say that a person should latch their phone, they got to leave the phone outside and turn off the phone. What happens if the person refuses to turn off the phone? What happens if the person refuses to leave the phone outside? We asked them questions. Then they said, you should not be taking picture. Of course, they had restricted it for us to cell phone. And when we raise the issue, they get other devices that can take a picture. Then they modify the thing and say other electronic devices. But we asked the question, so if a person is seen taking out the picture of the ballot, what then? What then? They didn't say. But they're going to call in the police, I guess. You're calling the police. What action can the police take? Right? And next thing, one of the things too, I should have mentioned before, when I talk about the night, you had all this panic in the PVP thing about minority government, right? They called for recount in Region 5 and 6. And as somebody said to me, you don't call for recount if you win. Or if they called for a recount, which suggested that they were lagging behind and they had been in trouble. And then I guess it's the same man who walked into police headquarters and turned cocaine into flour was at play. Houdini, the magician. Houdini, the magician, was at play, and therefore you had that, right? Now let me bring in Mr. Conway for him to have his say on that. CC, what is your take on what I've just said, man?
Well, let me tell you what happened to me when I went to vote, and it was just 4 houses away. I had a jersey and a jacket. Open up the jacket, it had plenty inside pockets. And they asked me if I have any cell phone. I said no. Directed me, process fast, and I go and voted. My back was torn towards them. They could have seen my back. But then how the thing was situated, if I make myself, as we say, a little small and go into a V, I might have been able to take out a photograph. I might have been able. Well, they just asked me if I have any phone, and I said no. Bear in mind, a big jacket and a jersey over it. And then, if the person had taken out the photograph and someone was posted, what offense was committed? I've been checking RUPO, the Representation of the People's Act, and I didn't find anything. Perhaps they're talking about policy, but policy is not law. Policy is not law. And if I breach the policy, I can't see them. They could have charged me for anything, because it is not law. You got charged on contrary to section so of the Representation of People Act, Chapter 101, or whatever is the case may be. But this thing about cell phone, it wasn't properly thought of. It wasn't properly, put together. Even the SOPs that they had, it wasn't properly put together. But then, we didn't have any real major event, but maybe the next time they need to think about it properly and make sure when it's telling you that you're breaching things, it's not the policy so much, it's the law. If they're going to report you to the police. They said they're reporting to the police. If they're going to report you to the police, and what action can the police take? Because the police got action be based on law, not based on policy for them arrest you, as the case may be. Maybe next time they might be able to do something better.
Yeah, again, they're not using these things as teaching and learning experience. That's the problem. That's the problem I have. That is one of the problems I have. And police talk about training and all this. And here I'm not knocking some of the police. What I saw, police were engaged in stuff that they should never ever be engaged in. Never engage in. I saw at the same place there where I voted later in the afternoon when I went there to take some people to vote. Police running the list, the police sergeant and them looking at the list to tell people if the name on the list. That's not a police function. That is not. So I don't know what the training. Police getting involved in things that should not get involved in. You're there at a polling place. You're there to make sure that no breach of the law is occasioned. No breach of the peace is occasioned. But police were there seen running through the list, taking people ID card for check. That is not a police function. And I saw the thing, I said, my Lord, what type of training did they do? I mean, they might have been enthusiastic and all of that, but that is not your function. Stick to what your functions are. I would have thought that would have been told to the police. Stick to your function. Don't get involved in that aspect. There's GCOM. Somebody come and ask you something, direct them to the GCOM officials. They're the ones who should be checking to see whether that person is on the list or not. Not you, the rank. But I saw sergeants, and them stripes look new. So there must be someone of them new sergeant, right? They are doing that. That's the type of thing we talk about. And they will not see anything wrong with that, They will claim that is Slow and Conway just finding fault. That is what they're going to claim. They're going to claim Slow and Conway finding fault. Now let me move on. to this Commonwealth person voting thing, right? Because again, I made a post. I saw let me show you all what I'm talking about. These are two people who they say from Bangladesh, right? Bangladesh. They claim that they're from Bangladesh. Nothing on the ID cards that they have, the Ghana ID card they have, indicates which country they are from. I made a comment on social media to say that maybe all the time I was filling out my forms wrong, because when they asked about nationality, I just said my nationality is Guyanese. I said I never knew that there's a nationality called Commonwealth. I said so. And Sanjeev Dattadin, the attorney, he's showing shades, I slow, because that is always the law that Commonwealth citizens can vote. That is not the issue whether Commonwealth citizens can vote. I don't contest that. The Constitution is clear about that. If you are a member of the Commonwealth, you can, and you reside, and you see that is what they're not talking about. You got to be a member of the Commonwealth. And in case you don't know what is the Commonwealth, Commonwealth are countries that came under the British. It's British Commonwealth, really. I have had the good fortune of attending at least 4 Commonwealth Games. I attended Commonwealth Games in New Delhi, India. I attended Gold Coast in Australia. There's Melbourne in Australia. I attended the one in England as well. 4 Commonwealth Games I've attended. So know what the Commonwealth is. I know what the Commonwealth is. So if you are from any one of those countries, the Commonwealth countries, and you are resident in Guyana for a year or more, you are eligible to vote at the election. Listen carefully what it says, So all they are telling you, the Sanjeev Dattadins and so on. But let me say this, I'm not surprised at Sanjeev Dattadin. And I hope you listen to somebody tell you, because he was one of them. He's an attorney, he used to be a member of parliament. He was one of them who came out in support of the action by the police in sending a police officer to Brooklyn, New York, to serve a summon on Rickford Burke. He came out and said that was okay. He was one of them, including Nandalal. They came out and supported that nonsense. So if you come now and we talk about Commonwealth, and then they're going to be selective, you're telling me, but I got it in the thing that it has always been so on the Commonwealth. We're not disputing that. The Constitution says that they must be resident in Guyana for at least 1 year. Now, the question is, what is residency? So let me say, I come for work. As we understand, most of these people have come, the Bangladeshi, they come for work. Is it that if you come to work, you are a resident? What process do you have to go through to become a resident, to be able to get an identification card? A Guyana, I don't know if they get work permit, but I know you come, you get a work permit. I know things like identification card and board certificate. You can't get that, sir. But in this case, I don't know what length of period these people were here either. I don't know what length they were here for, but the Constitution required for them to be here for at least 1 year. They have to be a year or more. And even if they were here for a year or more, you have to go through a process. Now, let me come to the ID card. As you can see, look, ID card, nationality, Commonwealth. And that is what I was commenting on. I said I never knew that there's a nationality called Commonwealth. I said, I thought your nationality refers to the country where you were born. But according to them, they're born in the Commonwealth. Yeah, they were born in the Commonwealth, but the Commonwealth is made up of several countries. One would have thought that, yes, you would have indicated for nationality which country you're born. And then look at this. This identification card was issued to this man, Mato, M-A-H-T-O, on the 12th of June, 2025. And then the second one issued to another Mato on the 9th of July, 2025. Now, let me understand this. And people who are wrong will I'm sure support me. For you to get, once you come into a certain period in the election, GCOM, right, do not issue even replacement identification card. You can't get. New one out of the question altogether. They don't give no new one. So how come the Matus were able to get identification card on the 12th of July 2025, and on the 9th of July, 12th of June 2025, on the 9th of July 2025? That is the type of things that that them should explain. We are not saying, how come, the next thing too, how come they got on the official list of electors? Yeah? Let me read what I got a student write something here. The law requires that Commonwealth citizens other than Guyanese to be domiciled and resident. Domiciled and resident is what the law says. Quote, domiciled and resident in Guyana at least 1 year before the date of the elections. Domicile and residency are not the same thing. And that's what I agree with you, my brother. Domicile and residency, you got to be domiciled and resident. Right? And then it goes on, it's going to say, not either of the two required. Let me go on to say, the Commonwealth citizen has to satisfy both. Not either. You have to be domiciled and you got to be resident. So while many of the Conway citizens may have been in Guyana for at least 1 year, almost all of them would have failed the domicile requirement and therefore ineligible to be included on the official list of electors. I agree, my brother. I agree fully. Right? I don't want to put up the person's name and all of that, but this is what he's saying. So when data didn't call Commonwealth, you just pick them up right away, tell you analysis. Oh, the Constitution says Commonwealth. Yeah, but the Constitution also says, outlines a process, outlines a protest. As I said, the quote, you have to be domiciled and resident. I don't know that if a person comes here to work, is domiciled and resident. I don't know. And therefore, maybe if Dr. then went to school on that day, maybe he can explain to us. Maybe he can explain to us. Because he showing shade that we slow and answer. I slow, yes. I slow. But I ain't stupid. Right? I am not stupid. How this man get ID card? Again, if I'm wrong, y'all tell me, because I know that there's normally a cutoff thing. That has been my experience. You want an ID card to be replaced or renewed, or what's yet, issue a new identification card within a certain period before election, you can't get it. Sometimes 6 months before, you cannot get it. That operation is normally closed off. So how come these Bangladeshis, and let me tell you something more too, let me tell you something more for Mr. Conway. It's like the old Bangladeshi family come. I have seen, look, they say, look, this is division, division thing. You see this name? M-A-H-T-O. It's 23 of them are the same address of voted Grove. Same surname, same M-A-H-T-O. You want to tell me something around there? You want to tell me something around? 23 persons. 23 persons with the same surname and the same address. And that none of them come with that thing. 23, I counted. I know if they had more, but 23. And then the people say, they're claiming that what happened then is that they were all bused to the place where they were supposed to booth. So they organized, they bused them, they carried them there. And then the police was there. That's what the allegation is. Some senior officer police received them to show them where they got to go vote. Are you telling me that this election was free and fair? You're telling me with all of that, all of them is free and fair? And if the Matos were there, how many others they claim to born in the Commonwealth? This country that they call Commonwealth. How many others like that you had? How many others? Let me bring you Mr. Conway, man. See? The Matos, all them family, same address a diamond somewhere, never vote a diamond. What is your take?
Well, let's talk about the Commonwealth. And I think it's about 26 countries that made up the Commonwealth. And yes, Bangladesh is a member of the Commonwealth. But you know, when they come into Guyana, and most of they come to work, they gotta get a work permit. And that's where the home affairs comes into play. And then apart from that, in terms of working is the Ministry of Labor, and the Ministry of Home Affairs will give you, well, through the immigration, will give you time. Well, you come in and you permit to stay for 6 months or 8 months or 3 months or how much. But then you have work permit. And now when you get an ID card, it means that there's no need for any work permit anymore. You don't know the guy, you don't work, you done thing already. You get an ID card, you don't got no work permit anymore. And they abusing it. They're abusing it. And look at, they're abusing the labor laws. And they're abusing the immigration status so that they come into. Some are sure some must come as visitors. Come as visitors and then the time, give a time and the time expire and all these things there. But look, 23 Bangladeshi, 23. Yeah. And all maybe from the same address. And then as you stated, a police was there to lay on the normal courtesy where they gotta vote and tell them what they gotta do and these kind of thing, you know. It's ridiculous. And there have to be many more. I heard about some Nigerians. I heard about some Nigerians and also who came into play and also voted. Don't talk about the Venezuelans and the Brazilians, you know. And we say it is free. No. Too many issues, you know, that took place there. Too many foreigners come and get ID card and vote. Some women even get work permit, but they don't get ID card and they voted.
Yeah, because the ID card question, how come these people can get ID card seemingly easily? Because as we have said, June and July, and there's only 2 that we saw. All them same surname live at the same address at the Matos, M-E-H-T-U. You want to tell me something that looks suspicious there? And see, I just Googled, the Commonwealth is made up of 56 countries, all former colonies or formerly under the British Empire, right? And they say it's 2.7 billion, right? One of 2.7 billion, the Commonwealth country. And again, something is wrong with this whole process. And people are allotted from before, bloated lists. Foreign, all these people come in, and we're talking about the people in the Commonwealth. What up? We haven't touched the Venezuelans yet, you know. We haven't touched on the Venezuelans yet. I hope somebody will provide those numbers. And there's another incident I want to report. I saw Attorney Ronald Daniels made a short video on it. And y'all listen to what's going on and talk about free and fair elections. Listen to this. He says that there's a guy who, he and his wife are electors. The wife had to vote somewhere in Berbice. He had to vote somewhere in the East Bank of Demerara. So they made a decision, and I compliment them, that she's going to go to Berbice first and vote. And then when they finish, he's gonna come to Tongue and vote. So wherever, not necessarily Georgetown, but he's gonna come to wherever he has to vote and vote. So the plan was going good. She vote, then he come down. He claims that when he went into the polling place, they couldn't find his name. Well, on one of the lists, it shows that his name was crossed off, indicating that he had already voted. Some other observer, somebody said, no, I can't immediately this man ain't vote yet. Right? He said that on his way into the polling place, he passed one of the polling officials going out. And while they were trying to find his name and resolve this issue, she came back in. And she said, I see you vote already. She said to him that he voted already. And there was this to and fro. They're calling the police, and the police lock up this man. I had to ask a question. That we all know that when you vote, once you come out the box, the first thing you got to do is put your index finger. They tell you put your index finger into the ink. Look beyond. Index finger in the ink. Well, Roy didn't put the index finger. Roy did do this. That's the middle finger. Roy they give them the middle finger. The same finger that they should have given Robeson when he was there in his back down clothes to take the march past. Right? So you show you. So did they check this man index finger to ascertain whether he voted or not? That would have been the evidence. But, you know, again, I can't for the life of me understand what's going on in this country, especially how they're doing the police. I hear the man get locked up. If they're claiming that this man voted already, the man is denying that I have not voted. The man outlined to them, I just come from Bobby's and all of that and so on. Because they're claiming he voted at that particular place. Show me your finger, sir. Let me see your index finger. And that should have resolved the issue. But you tell me that we're so backward in this place called Guyana. The police are so unprofessional that they wouldn't check that. They would not check that because remember, one person is saying that his name is crossed off on the list, on our list, indicating that he voted. Somebody else there said, no, this man name ain't crossed off. Because they get several agents and observers would have been there crossing off. So what happened, the most logical thing then, that is the purpose of the indelible ink on your finger to confirm whether you voted or not. And we know in the past, we hear rumors that people just take it off and they take it off and all them type of thing. So I am sure with a careful examination, you ought to have known whether this man voted or not. You ought to have known. And talking about technology, one would have thought too that when you get to some dispute like that, you would have had the technology for just pass some infrared or something to see this man vote or not. But this man is locked up. This man is locked up because they claim, well, they are doubtful as to whether he voted before. Man get locked up. But you know if he get released yet and what. Next you know they charge him because if you get charged and convicted for any related offense, a big jail and fine and all that sort of thing. But I am saying that a simple check of the man in his finger. If you want to check all his finger them, check all his fingers to determine whether he voted or not. And again, a breakdown, you got to blame the police because for the time you bring this man, what is the complaint? He voted. All right, your occurrence, start your investigation. The man would have told you, no, I ain't vote. And you, if you're sensible, would have said, well, let me see your finger. And there you don't have any evidence. You don't have any evidence. So, sad state. I'm sorry for the guy, yeah? Because when you see, as we said, the man wants to exercise his civic right and duty, took his wife to Borbies to vote. When she finished, he comes to Demerara or wherever else he had to vote. And to encounter something like that, I can't really understand what is going on in this place. And again, police, they hand you over to the police lock you up. On what basis? Bring him Mr. Conway, man. See, that story is such a sad story. The man get locked up, and the man claiming I never vote, and a simple check should have been able to resolve this thing. Your views?
Well, I hope he doesn't leave it like that. If in fact he got locked up, that he should take it several steps further. And then what authority the police get for lock up the man? I don't know. But as you say, the finger, show me your finger. You know, and that's something that the mother would have finished her right down there. That you don't see no evidence, nothing at all. And then what is it that you got to prove? What evidence you got to prove that the man had voted? And where he had voted? What evidence you got? You may got going and ballot box and all kind of thing and all the records and all kind of thing. You know, it's the whole thing is so ridiculous. On all of, and then police getting involved in matters that they have not to get involved with.
Yeah, that has always been the issue. The training apparently is not addressing that properly. The complaint made, we telling them, we beating it into them. The complaint made that this man voted already. That is the allegation. You locking me up, just sir? The man deny. The man say I ain't vote. First of all, if the complaint made, let me understand this policing. But the person who is making the complaint have to give you a statement. You got to take a written statement from that person or video recorded statement, but they have to give a statement to outline the allegation. Can't come and just tell you this man vote already and decide to lock you up. You have to have a statement. You would have put the allegation to the man denied. And then, as we said, we all know, because they should have gone through the process and know that when you vote, you get the ink on your finger. You check the ink. And if there's no ink on the man's finger, then you gotta get the benefit of the doubt. So you had a case where the man was disenfranchised, he wasn't allowed to vote, and then he ended up in the lockup. He was not allowed to vote, and then he ended up in the lockup. And you're telling me that this process was free and fair. And let me move to the next stage. Commonwealth, the observers, general observers. The observers over the periods would come and they focus mainly on the election day. Right? Focus mainly up and down, they're going to check, and they will report that the thing was free and fair. What is free and fair? Might be if it was efficient, people go in there coming out. But there's so many things that occur before, and therefore, and the next thing is they're going to tell you the thing free and fair and all of that. They might point out some stuff, irregularity here, irregularity there, and make some recommendation. And the recommendations are not complied with. So we have 2020, they come, they talk about biometrics, they talk about campaign finance reform, and all of those things. And none of those things are put in place. And they come back 5 years later, same thing, they're going to tell you about free and fair. And there is one observer who made a post on social media. And I was to respond to him yesterday, but I didn't, I did a little busy. And I said, it is all good as an observer for you to say that the process was free and fair and transparent. You can say that. I don't think there's anything wrong with you saying that. But the man goes on in the penultimate paragraph of the post to say, continued governance. And in other words, he goes on now to say that the government is going to continue. That is inappropriate, observer. That is inappropriate. Nothing wrong with you commenting on the process. But when you're going to go on, as you did in the second to last paragraph, the penultimate paragraph, to talk about continued progress and all that, that is inappropriate. And I'm sure people can tell the person, or the person can know if he listens, it is inappropriate. And I'm sorry I didn't get to respond because I was very, very busy and all that. I didn't get to respond, and I forgot to do so this morning. So I am making my comment here for the first time. It might not have been the correct thing. I should have really messaged him or something like that. But be that as it may, I think it is important for me to make the point. You cannot be an observer. An observer is supposed to be an impartial person. And you're making comments such as that. Again, I say, your comment on the process, in your view, the process was fair, the process looked free, people look efficient, and all of that. But when you're going to come and talk about continued government and all that crap, that is inappropriate. And I hope you recognize it. And even at this late stage, I hope you edit that post. I hope you edit that post, because I'm going to check on it. And if it's not edited, maybe I'll have to do something more. I don't want to. But it was inappropriate for you to have made. I'm talking specifically about the penultimate paragraph. The penultimate paragraph I'm talking about, where you went on to comment on continued governance and blah, 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 blah. Shouldn't be. Should not be. Can't make them comment. Now let me bring in Mr. Conway for him to see if he has anything to say on that. Our observer making him type of comment. CC?
No, I didn't see the report, But
all right.
You gotta be sensitive of certain things, They can't make certain insensitive report and one appear as though they're siding with the government. They need to be very impartial. And I agree with your submissions.
Yeah, you can't do that, man. You can't do that. Now, let me talk something more about the role of the election observers. I said I'm going to state that the elections were free and fair, but was it? Was it? You had a situation where I said, how can you How can it be free and fair when the government was able to monopolize state media for their propaganda? The Chronicle, DPI, NCN, all of them. UNC, I have not seen a single opposition given time. I know back in the day, they used to give you time. They give the opposition, so the government, state media, because we money running them. They give you time to go and say what you got to say. But none of them. In addition to that, they have all the people who are lying to them. Times, Sheriff, Newsroom, and all set out of them they get. So how can this thing be free? How can it be free when the president and other PPP members were able to make use of state resources? I mean, the Carter Center highlighted it, and then Jack Dio, they come and they talk in a lot of clubs. State resources, we get the numbers. Let me find it here. The number of trips the president took with our helicopter and all them type of thing in the period leading up. I have it somewhere here. Somewhere. So how can it be free when the president jumping all over the place with the helicopter and the fixed-wing plane? Government use, and the people pointed it out, make use of government employees, not only the 10-day workers, but public servants were seen on campaign. Cash grant information, right? Cash grant information where you have to register for the cash grant, provide you, among other things, your telephone number and so on. And they're using that. The PPP commandeered that database, government database, to be calling people and campaigning and all sort of things. How can that be fair? How can that be free? The intimidation. Look, the Win people, Azuddin Mohammed, unable to charter or to get private aircraft. Pressure upon them. They can't carry no way. They talk about sanctions. Look what the banks did. The Carter Center and even the U.S. had to come out and say the bank overreached in closing the account of those persons. Police stopping vehicles with Win supporters on the quarantine. Elsewhere, Region 1, stopping them from going to campaign and so on. And you want to tell me that it is free? You want to tell me that it was free? And I saw something today. I'm going to read it to you. I saw this. This is something I'm reading, right? This is not, I am authored this. I'm just reading this to you. Many of you may not have seen it as yet, and I got permission to read it. Hear what it says. Guyanese opposition and civil society calls on mass protests against flawed 2025 elections. Let me read about this headline coming out. Guyanese opposition and civil society call for mass protests against flawed 2025 elections. Hear what he says. Johnson Guyana. Guyana opposition parties, civil society groups, and concerned citizens are uniting to stage a mass protest in front of the residence of the President Irfan Ali, declaring the results of the 2025 general elections illegitimate. The unprecedented move comes amid mounting evidence that the People's Progressive Party's government failed to uphold fundamental democratic principles as enshrined in the United Nations core tenets of democracy. It goes on. A systematic erosion of democratic norms. International observers, legal experts, and local watchdogs have repeatedly highlighted that democracy is more than just holding elections. The United Nations outlined 10 core principles of democracy, including, listen to this carefully. 1, respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. 2, freedom of association. 3, freedom of expression and opinion. 4, access to power and its exercise in accordance with the rule of law. 5, the holding of periodic, free, and fair elections by universal suffrage and by secret ballots as the expression of the will of the people. 6, a pluralistic system of political parties and organizations. 7, the separation of power. 8, the independence of the judiciary. 9, transparency and accountability in public administration. And 10, free, independent, and pluralistic media. Those are the 10 tenets of democracy. By these standards, critics argue that Guyana's 2025 election failed in almost all 10 areas, making the declaration of results not only questionable, but unacceptable. It go on. They're pointing out specific failures undermining democracy. Human rights. Opposition supporters face intimidation and threats, undermining the rights to freely associate and campaign. They are now pointing out some of the things that occurred in the run-up to the election. Again, let me read back one. In terms of human rights, they say opposition supporters face intimidation and threats, undermining the rights to freely associate and campaign. We saw only over the last weekend what they did to those indigenous people. Amir Ahmad, Amir Ahmad, who gave $8.5 million for Brutus wedding. On a recording. We don't have time to play it in now, but we can recording telling the bus company for dash the people up on the road, those indigenous people. They were going to some wind rally or something like that. Show them out on the road and left them there. Show them out. So right away, the intimidation, undermining the right to freely associate and campaign. Evidence. Let me go to the second bullet. Freedom of association. Members of opposition parties were targeted for harassment, and many, because of their affiliation with the Win Party, had their bank accounts closed in retaliation. But we all know that. You all know that. Members of the opposition parties were targeted for harassment, and many, because of their affiliation to the Win Party, had their bank accounts closed in retaliation. Man get dismissed too. Man get transferred. Guy Sukuman transferred. Police officer shake Win candidate and transferred to some far place. And you want to tell me about free and fair? Right? Then it goes on third. Freedom of expression. Anyone not towing the PPP's line was denied government contracts, harassed, and threats of arrest because of manufactured charges by the police. We get evidence of that. Once you tow the line, it's harassment. Can't get no contract and all them type of thing unless you do like 00 not. Unless you do like 00 not. Can't get contract and so on. Then you get the rule of law. While government abuses went unchecked, let me read about. The selective enforcement of the law disproportionately target opposition members and supporters, while government abuses went unchecked. Government abuses went unchecked. We have so much evidence of that. But so as you perceive to be against them, they weaponize the police against you. Election integrity. Reports of disenfranchised and financially rewarded voters cast serious doubt on the credibility of the result. Disenfranchisement. We talk about this one man, what they lock up, say vote, 20 man and vote. And there's only one example. There are numerous other examples around the place. Numerous other examples. Right? And when you come to, when we talk about financial rewards casting down, only Sunday it is alleged that the president himself been across the river giving people money. Giving people money. And let me understand this clearly. Of the three major parties, that is VPC, the APNU, and the Win Party, the only one that wasn't accused of paying people was the APNU. The other parties were accused, credibly so, of paying people to vote for them. Why you think people taking out or some persons to count the ballot paper and show? It's so they can confirm that they vote for collect the money. Why else you think would they do that? To confirm and take the money. Political pluralism. Opposition parties were denied equal access to the state media and campaign opportunities. The opposition parties were denied access to state media and opportunities. We know it is there. The evidence is there. Then it go on separation of powers. The president and others in his executive branch interfere in the dispensation of the law and stifle the independence of the court and the government procurement agency. Separation. And I said I remember going to university and Q Morris taught the environments of public administration when they come and tell about separation of power, the three branches of government, right? Executive, legislative, and judicial. We ain't got true separation of power in Guyana. Let me understand this. Because the people who are in Parliament, many of them are therefore part of the legislative. Many of them are cabinet members. So they're part of the executive as well. This is not a civic class, but executive reform. The executive refers to cabinet, the legislative refers to parliament, and the judiciary is the third branch. But you get people, so don't come and tell us about separation of power when you get people in the executive also part of the legislative branch. So there's no true separation of power in Guyana. No true separation of power. Then, judicial independence. Courts have been accused of dragging their feet and bending to political influence in election-related disputes. What it says, let me read it back. Courts have been accused of dragging their feet or bending to political influence in election-related disputes. So we know some people get charged with election fraud since back in 2021 or something. Not done yet. Can't done yet. Can't done as yet. Transparency. The Election Commission has been accused of withholding critical data from party agents and international observers as required by law. They argue information, and the people highlighted it here. Media freedom. One of the main media houses is owned and controlled by the government, and most of the others have an affiliation with the ruling People's Party. So Chronicle is government, NCN is government, DPI, which is the Department of Public Information government, and I said most of the others. I told you all, like Guyana Times, right? You get Newsroom, right? You get Sheriff now come on the scene. And they get others, you know them. So how can we say that this thing, they abiding by the tenets of democracy as outlined by the United Nations? I said, note, the role of international observers in Guyana's election is important, but it must be understood in the context. While observers are diligent in their work, their mandate only allows them to capture a snapshot of the democratic process, focusing primarily on voting and tabulation. As outlined by the United Nations, democracy is built on a much broader set of principles, such as freedom of expression, equality before the law, accountability and transparency in governance. These deeper cultural and institutional elements cannot be fully measured in a short-term observation mission. Therefore, while the presence of international observers bring a degree of oversight, it does not provide a comprehensive assessment of whether the full tenets of democracy as described by the UN are upheld in Guyana. Then, a united call. The opposition coalition, supported by civic organizations and grassroots movements, has declared that the results do not reflect the will of the people. They insist that until democratic principles are restored, no declaration of government should be recognized. And, quote, this protest is not just about who sits in office, end of quote, says one social leader. Quote again, it's about safeguarding the very foundation of our democracy. The PPP cannot continue to govern on the back of manipulation, intimidation, and erosion of the law, end of quote. Peaceful protests as a democratic right. Organizers are calling for a peaceful, sustained demonstration in front of the president's residence, stressing that protest itself is a fundamental democratic right. They urge all Guyanese, regardless of political affiliation, to stand together in defense of the nation's sovereignty and the democratic future. The protest aims not only to reject the flawed election result, but also to demand international oversight, restoration of democratic norms, and accountability for those who subverted the electoral process. Conclusion. Guyana stands at a crossroad. The legitimacy of its democracy is in question, and the world is watching. If the government continues to govern in violation of internationally recognized principles, the people of Guyana are left with little choice but to exercise their right to resist through protest, solidarity, and civic action. Here's a letter I just read. I picked it up there, and I said, let me read it there. Because as it says, democracy is not only going on. Look, let me understand. When you look at what the United Nations says about the democratic process, no one with any iota of common sense can say that what we had there, and remember, it's not only about the day, it's leading up with all the processes. Government manipulate all this, monopolize all the state resources. President flying around with a helicopter, fixed wing plane. Ministers with government vehicles doing the campaign. Even when they're opening things, and it was pointed out by some observer before, the opening all sort of thing, police station, and then some of them dressed in the political uniform. All of those things are wrong. And when you talk about it, they want to come after you. Let it come, man. I tell you already, I'm not afraid to speak the truth. I'm not afraid. And as they have said in this thing here, peaceful protest is a democratic right. The United Nations Charter says so. It's democratic right to peacefully protest. So they intimidate people. You protest, they charge you with terrorism and all them type of crap. It's part of the intimidation, which is against the tenet of the United Nations, what the United Nations says about democracy. Let me bring in Mr. Conway, man. CC, I said a mouthful there. I know you would want to have your say. Go ahead.
You said a whole lot there. And if you're going to evaluate whether things was free, whether or not it's free and fair, you have to look at activities before E-Day itself, and after the close of poll. And we had, you mentioned some of it, but I gotta support you, where they monopolize the state media, NCN, and other areas. They monopolize them. We watching cricket, we watching CPL, and then they interrupt the CPL with a political advertisement, and then they would say this was a paid political advertisement, PPP advertisement. And I'm sure if you check, they must pay NCN a cent for that paid political thing there. Utilizing the human resource, all those part-time workers, all those government employees using the vehicles for their rallies and their meetings. The president jumping more the place in a helicopter. Even the day before election, he there in the north and south Pacoima in the mountains, up and down the place with the helicopter, doing election duties. Yeah? And and the thing is that, threatening people too. If you don't come to this rally, you can last the walk. And this kind of thing that you utilizing the transportation, the government thing, utilizing government funds, cash grant, another cash incentive, they give them $100,000, and recently they go across West them and they start give people $25,000 cash for vote for them, and denying the opposition, particularly the PNC and the win opportunity to use the state media. So I'm saying, if you want to say what is free and fair, look at activities, look at events before E-Day, and after the close of poll. And you see all the illegal things they do, all of the illegal activities that they did. So we can't say for now what is free and fair unless you do a proper analysis. And the observer just come in a couple days, stay for a day, and next couple days time they're gone. I know what kind of proper thing they can do. And to say it is free and fair, there were too many illegal activities committed by the PPP parties.
Right, again, this is not trying to incite anything, but you got to just lay it bare on the letter that I just read just now. Make the point clearly. How can you, again, election observers come maybe 2-3 weeks before and they see what's going on and so on, and they're going to wait. Kudos to the Carter Center because they made some observation before about the alleged use of state resources. And of course, they're going to deny them things. Because when they talk about the cash van database, Jack just said, no, they get that from when they go up on the outreach and all that. Lie. The people who were calling and when they were asked questions said that they got it from the cash grant database. They were given this thing from the cash grant database. State resource they're using. And Jack will lie. As usual, it's in his DNA to tell lies. You're going to hear more lies tomorrow. You're going to hear more lies tomorrow. But I'm saying that when you analyze all that transpired, something is wrong. Something is wrong. I talk about the old, let me say that as far as I know in my own experience, getting to actual vote on Monday was smooth, in and out. Maybe because of the low turnout and a combination of the efficiency and the part of GCOP, maybe it's a combination of both, but it was smooth. But you can't determine free and fair by just that one process. There are a series of activities, and you can't isolate a one and say, well, this one went good, so everything went well. We were talking a long time about this bloated list. Look what we talking about the Bangladeshi. Bangladeshi, 23 of them with the same surname, allowed to get national ID card, get a national ID card as late as July from the two that we saw. Less than 2 months after the election has been announced, they're giving them ID card. And you want to tell me something is not wrong with that? How many of those persons were given identification card? How many Commonwealth citizens were given identification card? And we know full well that once they gave identification card to Commonwealth citizens, even though it's legal, they're giving people and they are going to be encouraged or coerced to vote for them. Because I heard a man saying, who sung the say Nigerian, right? That they spread the propaganda, and the Nigerians came together, decided to vote for PPP because they told them that the coalition saying that if they won the election, all the Nigerians are going to be evicted from Guyana. And in closing, I'm going to come back and think. We must reflect on what transpired here over the past couple of days. And must reflect even further. And you know what a friend told me? A friend said, this you're seeing here now, why the transatlantic slave trade lasted for all them hundreds of years that it lasted. The transatlantic slave trade lasted for as long as it lasted. Because you know what he's talking now? And I'm going to say it. So the Ethnic Relation Commission can call me to explain. People say now that the people boasting that you're going to get an Indian Muslim president and you're likely to get an Indian Muslim leader of the opposition. They say we dominated now. That is what is going to happen. They say we dominated now. Well, let me see where the dominance will lead you. Because I maintain that with all the accusation of drug smuggling and gold smuggling and supporting Maduro and thing, I got a strong feeling. And this was supported by something I read, where it is suggested that the only reason why the sanctions have not come down yet is because Uncle Sam didn't want to do it so close to the election because people said they're putting their hand on the scale. But now that the elections are over, as I told you all, watch out, because they know, they know the number of them that were pulled in and questioned about illegal and other activities. They know those who are in the sights of the Americans. They know. Trust me, they know. And therefore, they're going to look to see, as I said, those who are ministers, I think they still are, those who are member of parliament, look to see when the new lists are revealed, who get knocked off from their list. And that will perhaps give you a signal as to those who are on the radar, those who are in the crosshairs of the American. Corrupt government. And again, I say, before I begin Mr. Conway for his closing, when we saw or when we look at what transpired here, what does us tell us about us as a country? A corrupt government, corrupt officials, including the vice president being alleged of being corrupt, including the president being alleged of being corrupt, ministers being alleged of being corrupt, ministers in plural, government officials. You can remember when the U.S. sanctioned May Thomas and the Mohammeds, they talk about government officials. And at that time, they had only sanctioned she was the only government officials Later on, they sanctioned the police officer. So, all right, he's an official. Who more? Who more to be sanctioned? Let me see. Let me see. As I've said before, the next 4 months, right down to the end, some people will get a terrible Christmas. From now to the end of this year, watch it. Sit back and watch. You know, the thing at the selling, they say, weeping may endure for the night, but joy cometh in the morning. Bible. Christian, you know, weeping may endure for the night, but joy cometh in the morning. Watch out, watch and see. Let me bring Mr. Conway for his closing. CC, your closing remarks, my brother. You had your challenges to get on, but all the students recognize that the efforts that we just make to come and to bring you this program. Go ahead, my brother.
Yeah, Paul. GCOM promised that by tomorrow they will declare the results, the winners. I hope they don't disappoint us. And I hope, as you said early in your broadcast, that they do better, that Jamaica will announce or will not announce before Guyana, you know, who are the winners. But a lot of issues hanging in the air, plenty. And for me, we might need some divine intervention. It may call for some divine intervention in relation to what things that are hanging in the air. But I pray for peace. All persons have a right to contest. Persons have a right to peacefully picket or demonstrate. But I hope that there is some kind of divine intervention if things started to get out of hand.
Yeah, my brother. Thank you for that. And we are open pray that things remain quiet. We open pray that things remain quiet. Now, today, Wednesday, you know, normally Friday become Friday. Friday's a holiday in Guyana, but we can still come. Because, you know, let me tell you all this. Should have mentioned it before. The counting and swan, tabulating, what they call it. Good. Look for the awarding of seats. Look for the awarding of seats. This is critical with the system that they get, right? Which is top up and which is regional. And look for that. Because if you could recall back in, I think it was 2011, they somehow made a mistake and they awarded a seat to PPP, which they should not have had. I think it was said that it's with Vincent Alexander, who discovered when they were doing it, when they tried to do it again, I think in 2011 when they had the minority government, an attempt was made to manipulate the seat calculation, and they were caught. They were caught, and that is how they ended up with a minority government in 2011 under Donald Ramatar. But things not regular. The quote, things not regular. Mr. Alexander used to get a thing in the program, and things not regular. Folks, we've had a long afternoon. Thanks for your attendance. You came out in real large numbers this afternoon, and we appreciate you for that. We're going to come again, God's Pay Life, Friday afternoon, because I understand that, well, as CC said, they're going to likely to announce the official winners sometime tomorrow. And again, the bet is still there that Jamaica going to announce before. The Jamaica's gone to the poll today, 2.4 million voters or something like that, right? To Guyana, 300 and something thousand that actually voted, right? And if you look at the official list of electors, 700 and something thousand of a population of 800 and something thousand, and they can't get the result in a timely manner. They come with all manner of excuses. They can't give you. But it's the thing. Now let me give you all. You're still due to get your therapy, you know.
These people.
Wrong one.
Sit there and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Su? Oh, Su? My relationship? Nothing. He He's a tenant in my place, yeah.
And he's a good friend of yours?
Yes, yes, he is a friend of ours.
He claims
Yeah. Corruption allegation, and then people vote for them, people go back in office. I've regards to that and more stuff. People vote. You know, karma is a bitch, you know. Karma is a bitch. And God don't sleep. You don't wear pajama. That's all I got to say. You know. You don't wear pajama, you don't sleep. Folks, y'all stay well. Continue to watch. Stay well. God's Spray Life, we're gonna come again Friday afternoon for another program of Speaking Out, exposing corruption, incompetence. Until then, stay well. Bye.